Well, Harvey wins by a landslide, but the evening is ruined when Thorne calls up saying he knows about Big Bad Harv and wants to have a chat. Bruce spots his departure and Batman follows, where we learn why Harvey felt guilty about his anger. Seemed that he punched a guy that was bullying him when he was young and found out that he went to the hospital. Turned out it wasn't because of the punch, it was just a coincidence. Thorne tries to use the knowledge of Harvey's psychological problems to blackmail him into doing favors for him from time to time. But Harvey's so outraged that Big Bad Harvey comes out, and he's got some muscle to him. We see at one point 3 guys are on him, and he still manages to get free and pursue Thorne with his file. But a mook starts firing, vats of chemicals are introduced to a live wire, and zap! Half of Harvey's face is hideously scarred.
This is a pretty hardcore origin story.
Two-Face dates back to the original team of Bob Kane and Bill Finger that created Batman. Inspired by Jekyll and Hyde and the disfigurement of Phantom of the Opera, Harvey Apollo Kent, later changed to Dent so he wouldn't have the same last name as Superman's alter ego, appeared throughout the Golden Age but then disappeared for the most part. It wasn't until the Dennis O'Neil era that Two-Face was finally brought back, and not until Frank Miller's post-Crisis on Infinite Earths storyline Year One that Dent was reimagined, as originally being an ally in the war against Gotham's corruption. What would emerge as more writers worked on the character was a young Harvey Dent being physically abused by his father to create the Two-Face persona. The series Bible doesn't go that way, but it is quite different from what we're getting in the actual animated series. I won't get into all the ways, but it's so substantial a difference that it leads to the question of why the radical change of their approach. I think you have to look at the character a bit to see why they recognize the richer possibilities of this different take upon the character. The change, though, that is so important I should call out was that originally it was simply the fact that Two-Face emerged because of Harvey Dent's disfigurement. But as we're seeing, this capacity inside of him was always there. Big Bad Harv is the result of guilt over a lack of self-control. Rather than being able to process anger in a healthy way, Harvey has this problem. As established, he's quite strong, even if you factor in the degree to which adrenaline might be playing into Big Bad Harv's feats of strength. Consequently, when Harvey Dent loses it, he has the capacity to really hurt someone, as he feared he had at one point. This couches the origin of Big Bad Harv as a consequence of Dent being afraid of his own emotions, and thus presents him as a counterpoint to the brilliant reimagining of Mr. Freeze as a coldly logical character who is actually driven by a singular emotion. Freeze's tragedy drives him to reject emotion, even though it is the emotion beneath the surface that's driving him. While Harvey's is when the attempt to control emotion because of fear and guilt is so intense that it allows the darkness to collect and fester within his soul until it becomes something ugly, and thus manifests as something ugly. The change to Two-Face's origin makes Harvey a man who was constantly fighting for control, but now has surrendered all control, not to his darker half, but rather surrendering control for his need to do any of that. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Whatever the coin says I do, I do. The bandages are removed while the doctor says that a plastic surgeon will be working on dealing with the scars, though in this case, the only thing a plastic surgeon can do to help is give Harvey breast implants. It's so bad that when Grace spots him, she faints, and Harvey says his goodbye and makes off into the night. What happens? Next week, the exciting conclusion of Two-Face.